If you're from the Milwaukee area, you know we had some really rough weather this past weekend. Rains that we've never really seen before, all sorts of flooding. Maybe if you're not from Milwaukee, you heard about it on the news, but it's been pretty rough. The parish here wasn't immune from all that. There was water downstairs early Sunday morning this past weekend. Fortunately, we fared much better than some of our neighbors did. But whenever there is a natural disaster like a flood, it can be so devastating on one hand. But on the other hand, it never ceases to amaze me, all of the help that surfaces and really helps people find higher ground in the midst of the raging waters that we had last weekend. I think of neighbors who just instinctively were checking in on neighbors, especially those who are elderly and live alone in our community. I think of all of the resource sharing that's been happening online and through word of mouth with people who have been directing one another to resources that can help in the aftermath of a flooded out basement or a flooded out car. I even thought of the city workers that were at work so early in the morning after the rains this weekend to unclog sewer drains so that intersections could drain and cars and emergency vehicles could pass through. I think ultimately of that quote from Mr. Rogers that invites us that when there is a tragedy or a disaster to look for the helpers, because it's the helpers that really help us find higher ground in the midst of the raging waters. I think of that line in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 2, where there's this promise that even though we will have to navigate some rough waters, there will be higher ground offered so that we won't be swept away. And within all, that is a holy invitation on our journeys of life and faith to pause and pray. Reflect on some chapters and seasons where we were navigating some pretty rough waters, but also where we discovered the kind of help that could help us find higher ground. And pray for the grace, especially if we're going through one of those situations right now, to cling to that help when it's offered and the higher ground that it does offer. Because that's the kind of love at work that keeps us from being swept away. God's peace and blessings to you all.